What's going on, guys? Back again today with a bit of a comparison video for you guys. I didn't really want to I don't want to make a whole nother video. Obviously didn't want to make a whole nother video reviewing this one because I did carry Banner 24/7s for a while. Got a good impression on this guy, gave you guys a review, and now I feel like I need to pass this guy along. This is going to go get heat treat tested from Kurt, and then we'll find out where that guy's at. And I got this guy in the mail the other day and figured before I get rid of this one, I want to just do a quick comparison so that you guys know what to expect when you're getting it, you know, out of box from Mass Drop. So as far as what I've seen, guys, as far as fit and finish, really great, guys. Nothing on this knife that I would have expected or that I didn't see on this one. Everything was really nicely done on my example. All the same things I would say about this one would pretty much apply to this knife. I think this one might even line up a little bit better than Banner 24/7's example, but nothing that I can complain about. Very nicely done, just like his. All the same chamfering and everything that you saw on that knife is here. Pocket clip is nice and tight. Retention's good. Everything's just in line with that guy. As far as the action's concerned, this guy was a little bit smoother than Banner 24/7's. I think it might have just been a little bit looser pivot, but I did take this guy apart today, and what I did notice is getting this guy out of box, it didn't have that sticky spot that I told you guys about in the review. This sticky spot right here, it didn't have that on this knife, getting it out of box. But I did take it apart this morning, and it's even smoother than it was when I got it out of box, so that's really nice. In taking it apart, I also saw some things that I wanted to mention that I didn't mention in the full review, but some things that are important in disassembly and stuff like that. But this pivot screw, guys, I went to undo it from this side, I believe, and it was spinning. So I kind of switched to the other side. I held it down. It came right out. But what I did notice once I got the pivot out is that both of these screws screw into a cylinder. So there's threading all the way through a cylinder, and it's two screws on the outside, which is not exactly ideal, guys, because that means you could remove it from either side, but that also means if you get a screw stuck, it's going to be difficult. You're going to have to use some kind of like a wrench or something or pliers to hold on to the pivot while you spin the screw. It can become an issue, but it's nothing that's super horrible. It's just something to mention and note that it's not like one of these is actually attached to the pivot. It's a separate screw, two different screws going into one cylinder. That is also the case with the backspacer. So the backspacer it's a separate piece of titanium that has two cylinders that go through, which is nice because those cylinders that this screws into, these two outside scale screws screw into that cylinder that fits through this, and the cylinder is shouldered into the two scales. So what that means is that this backspacer cannot shift. It's always going to go into a positive lock where it is. And that's a really nice touch, guys. So if I'm not explaining this correctly, if you guys don't understand what I'm saying, these cylinders that go through the backspacer go into the scale as well, slightly, just like maybe a millimeter. They go into the scale. So when they go through the backspacer, it can't move, and then those cylinders go into the scale. So every time you take this thing apart and put it back together, it's always going to line up the same way, which is a really nice touch, guys. That's really nice. The one negative side to what I'm talking about is that if one of your screws gets seized up in that cylinder, there's no way to, you'd have to put some, like I said, some vice grips or something on that and try not to damage that cylinder to get the screw out. Or if you just leave one side Loctited and the other side not, you always know just to take those screws out and leave these Loctited, because this will free spin. Although once you like squeeze it all together and once you do that, it usually doesn't spin. It'll usually just lock up nicely, and then you can just tighten it to where you need it. But just something to note, something to mention, but nothing that I feel like is detrimental to the knife. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys before I send this guy off is that I did touch this guy up. I went back to the stones and just made sure I removed any fatigue steel and stuff. And guys, this thing came up even nicer than it did last time when I first sharpened it. I think that I got into some really good steel there, and oh man, it took a really keen edge, no pun intended, and it was hair whittling. After 1500 and a 3-micron strop, it did catch a hair, and it did start to whittle. It wasn't like screaming, like, blowing the hair, but it really did whittle fine, and just took a much nicer edge on this one. So yeah, I think I got through a lot of that fatigue steel from the factory. This one did not come it's just not that sharp from the factory, guys. I was not impressed by this factory edge, and I will be sharpening it probably today because was not impressed by that. I'll go ahead and check the thickness behind the edge here just to see if it's on par with Banner 24/7's example. Yeah, 10 thousandths, which is what they call for on their site. Although Banner 24/7's is 10 thousandths after sharpening, so this one might lose some of that thinness as I lay back the edge. Although I don't know what the factory is. They might be at 15 thousandths, which is probably where I'm going to lay it back to. Having a hard time getting it right here. Yeah, so, I think it's more like 9 thousandths right here. 10. Okay, so let's call it 10 thousandths, which is what they call. So that's really nice, guys. Really excellent grind. So stoked, and I hope you guys hope this brought some value, at least to show you that the consistency in their manufacturing seems to be really good. And the detent on this one is a little bit more ideal, but it's still a little soft compared to some of the other flippers I've used. I can feel it. It's just slightly soft on the detent, but nothing that's going to bother you in deployment. It really is pretty well done. You almost have to try and feel it. Like even now I'm trying, and yeah, there you go. So yeah, really nicely done, guys. Super stoked with my example. One thing I'll show you about the portals that I thought was a little strange. I don't know how well this is going to show. You see that? The backspacer shows in that last portal, which I thought was a little strange. I feel like they could have either altered the backspacer so that it didn't show in the portal, or do something. But I thought that was a little weird. I am going to do some cool anodizing work on this, guys. Probably do some different color in the center of the holes and do something else on the outside. Different backspacer. Maybe match that with the backspacer and the clip. We'll see. Going to do something cool, so we'll see how that goes. One more thing I thought was important is, like, if I was going to decide again, now that I have both of these in hand, if I was going to decide between the portals and the line, honestly, guys, I wouldn't necessarily go either way over the other. The portals, you can feel them, like right here, it does kind of, you can grip your fingers into it if you really like that. Also with the line, you can do that. So really not something to, I would just go with whichever one you kind of like aesthetically better. But I kind of like the portals a little better personally, but that's just a personal preference thing. I really like the line too, and you could do some cool stuff anodizing that as well. So yeah, that's it. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it brought some extra value, and have a great day.